Okay, so if you've ever tried to learn to code, you know the feeling. You're staring at the screen, right? There's a tutorial playing, but the concepts, they just aren't clicking. It's this really deep, frustrating confusion that makes you question, well, everything. But what if that feeling isn't a sign to stop? What if it's the very first signal that you're actually, truly starting to learn? Let's talk about how to completely reframe that feeling.
Right here, this is the core myth that trips up so many people. It's this nasty little thought that pops into your head that says, hey, if I'm confused, I must not be smart enough for this. We think it's some kind of personal failure. But what if that entire assumption is just completely wrong?
You know, believing that myth, it pulls you right into a trap. And it's a trap that a lot of coders know all too well. It's called tutorial hell. It's that place where you're constantly watching videos, constantly taking notes, but you never ever feel confident enough to build something on your own. You feel like you're moving, but really you're just running in place. It's a loop, and it doesn't lead anywhere good.
And here's what that cycle looks like, step by step. First, you hit that wall. You feel confused. So what's your first instinct? Find another tutorial, right? That makes you feel busy, makes you feel productive, but then when you actually try to apply what you supposedly learned, that confidence, it just isn't there. And so what happens? You're right back where you started, feeling confused all over again.
It seems like the logical thing to do, doesn't it? If you're confused, just get more information. So we binge watch tutorials, we copy down pages of notes, we even restart entire courses from the beginning, just hoping that this time it'll finally stick.
But this right here is the mindset shift that changes absolutely everything. The old way of thinking tells us that confusion is a big red stop sign. It's a brick wall. But the new truth? It tells us that confusion is actually the starting line. It's the first, necessary signal that your brain is being challenged and is getting ready to grow.
And here's why that's true. See, learning to code isn't like watching a movie. You can't just sit back and let the information flow into your brain. It's not passive. Your mind has to actively build all these new connections. And that whole construction process, it takes effort. It takes a little bit of struggle.
So let's give this feeling a name. Let's call it friction. Friction is that uncomfortable, kind of messy, I don't get it yet phase. It's when you're wrestling with a problem, trying stuff that doesn't work, and just sitting in that feeling of uncertainty. Now, it feels like you're failing, but this is the exact moment your brain is doing its most important work. It's literally forging new pathways, the very pathways that lead to real deep understanding.
So this really leaves you at a crossroads. On one path, you have the comfort of tutorials. It feels safe, you feel productive, but the learning stays on the surface, It's shallow. On the other path, you have the struggle of actually solving problems. It's hard, for sure, but it is the only way to build that deep, unshakable confidence that you're really looking for. And this idea of friction, it explains that weird paradox perfectly. It's why you can spend hours and hours learning and feel super busy, but at the end of the day, you don't feel confident when it's time to actually code. It's because you've been consuming, but your brain hasn't done the hard work, the friction, to truly internalize it all.
Okay, so we get the why, but what about the how? How do you actually break out of this cycle and start embracing this, productive struggle? It all starts by changing one simple thing, the question you ask yourself when you get stuck.
When we hit that wall, this is almost always our default question. Why don't I understand this? You can just feel the panic in that question, can't you? It's so broad, it's laced with self-doubt, and it doesn't point to a solution. It just points toward despair.
So instead, you got to pivot. You need to change the question to this. What exactly is confusing me? Do you see how powerful that little change is? The focus shifts from you and your ability to the problem itself. It forces you to get specific. Is it the syntax? Is it one particular function call? The overall logic? All of a sudden, you're not staring at a giant wall anymore. You're just looking for one single loose brick.
And that simple shift is just incredibly powerful. It yanks you out of that emotional panic mode and shoves you into an analytical problem-solving mode. That huge, vague mountain of, I'm confused, becomes a small, specific rock that you can actually pick up, examine, and figure out how to get around. It's the very first step toward real clarity. And that really brings us to the ultimate takeaway here. The next time you feel that friction, that struggle, I want you to remember what it really is. It is not a detour from your learning journey. It is the journey. That uncomfortable effort, it isn't wasted time. It is the most valuable, most productive work you can possibly do. So here's a thought to leave you with. What's one thing you're struggling with right now that you can look at with this new question?